attendant looked up, a bland expression on his face. "I'm afraid there's been a delay," he said, his voice dripping with vagueness. I felt a surge of frustration. Welcome, horror buffs, to your ultimate destination for a heavy dose of bone-chilling encounters that will make your heart race and skin crawl uncontrollably. Are you ready for an intense rush of fear and thrill like never before? Then let's dive straight into the stories. The story was posted by Zorag Edon on r/nosleep. So much skin. I have to tell someone about this. I can't just pretend. She's dead, the love of my life, ripped apart in the dark. The police tried to detain me when I went to them. You should have seen their faces, fucking pricks. I'm not crazy. I was the one stuck down there, not them. They have no idea. I can't live like this. I barely sleep, and when I do, I have to go through it all again. Sometimes I swear I hear that pounding behind the walls, that steady beat. But nobody will listen. So, it has to be here. My girlfriend Sarah and I, we loved to camp up in the mountains. The clear air, the sunshine, the nature. It was all so wild, so removed from the city crowds. We'd pack a tent and some supplies and spend a weekend adventuring. Drive as far as possible, then hike deep into the woods. Maybe find a spring and go for a swim, or lie by the fire with a joint and stare up the stars. On our last trip a few weeks ago, we found a cave. Not our first time caving. Most of the area is decently mapped out and they can be a lot of fun to explore. But that one was new. The entrance was a wide gash at the bottom of one of the rock faces. Daylight fought its way inside, illuminating a rough passage into the mountain. I checked the map, double-checked, checked again. Nothing. I was giddy. Couldn't keep the smile off my face. Sarah was on edge, kept chewing her lip as she stared down the hole. She said there was no way this could have stayed hidden. Too many people like us poking around over the years. But I could tell that underneath she was as excited as me. Her eyes had that gleam to them. We'd both dreamed of an opportunity like that, fantasized about it late at night when we couldn't sleep. We wanted to find something new. Can you imagine how that would feel? Discovering something untouched by human hands for decades, maybe centuries. We'd be a part of history, even if only a small one. I didn't have to push hard to change her mind. Besides, at the end of the day, a cave is a cave, new or not. There were hazards, but nothing we hadn't seen before. That's what we told ourselves. We had flashlights, rope, food, water, everything you'd need to dive in. We were even able to get a call out to a friend and let her know what we were doing. So we went. Down into the jagged earth. The passage forked off in 100 directions, cinching smaller and tighter every time. Sunlight was a memory. Dark, so thick our flashlights were practically cutting through fog. We bolted a rope into the wall and let it trail behind us as we walked. Sarah kept looking down at the shrinking spool in her hands, chewing her lip again. Soon the ceiling was so low we had to crouch. The rope was running out. Nerves had started bubbling in my gut too. The excitement was wearing thin. Then the ground gave out beneath us. No warning. No cracking or rumbling or changes in the air. It just opened up and swallowed us. Too fast to understand. Earth roared around me. Sarah was screaming, faint under the noise. For a second, my flashlight lit her face, her eyes wide with panic. Then I hit the ground. My head cracked into something hard. My light died. Everything was black. A high whine clogged my ears. I couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't breathe. I just writhed there, mouth gaping like a fish. Until my lungs finally dragged in a breath. My hands scrabbled at the ground as I tried to convince myself it was solid. It felt wrong. Carpeted with something soft and springy, like leather. Hot gusts of wind sighed past my face like breaths. with a sour, stale smell that made my nostrils burn. The wine slowly melted out of my ears and Sarah's voice broke through, coming from further ahead. Her gentle sobs were soaked in pain. I tried to shout her name, but my whole body was shaking and my voice came out as a cracked whisper. Pain exploded in my knee when I tried to stand. A molten sliver hammered through the joint. My leg gave and I pitched sideways, caught myself on the wall. More of that weird carpet was stuck to it. It bunched in my hands as I caught hold. I barely noticed. I had to get to Sarah, had to make sure she was safe. My mind overflowed with images of her body crushed and broken under a mountain of rubble. I hobbled toward her voice, clinging to the wall to keep myself upright in that suffocating dark. Tried to pull out my phone, but the impact had pulverized it, and the pieces fell through my fingers like sand. Sarah must have heard me as I got close because she started shouting my name, her voice on the edge of begging. I fell next to her, wrapped her in my arms. She pressed her face into my chest and we sat there and wept. Eventually the tears ran dry. Neither of us had the energy for words. I smacked my flashlight, trying to beat it back to life. It started flickering, short spasms of light filling the space. The breath drained out of me. My guts turned to ice. Back the way I'd come was a wall of shattered rock. Nothing left of the hole we'd fallen through, or the rope meant to lead us home. The entire mountain sat on our chests. Sarah's leg was mangled. The fall had turned her shin to jelly, twisted her foot around backwards. Another tunnel stretched ahead of us, trailing off in darkness. The walls, the floor, the ceiling, every inch of it was covered with ragged scraps of brown and white and pink, all to it stitched together in a massive patchwork. The flat heads of metal spikes showed where it had been staked to the stone and drawn tight across it like a second skin. It didn't hit me right away that that's what it was. Skin. There was a shape under my hand, small and hard and familiar. I recoiled, didn't want to look. My head moved on its own. My light flashed. A shriveled ear poked up from the floor. Next to it, a face, staring at me, eyeless, its lips pulled wide in a never-ending wail. Sarah was crying again. My breath came too fast. My lungs wouldn't fill. I clamped my eyes shut just for a second, just trying to think of what to do. Sarah shrieked. Her hand flew out of mine, left me grabbing at air. I turned my head, in time, to see her on her back, being dragged away. The shadows yawned behind her. Something long and thin was reaching out of them. An arm. It had Sarah by the ankle, hauling her down the mountain's throat. She kicked and she clawed. Then she was gone. Adrenaline killed the pain in my knee as I shot to my feet, started to run after her. The world was a lunatic slideshow bathed in flashes of broken light. The tunnel split into a maze of crisscrossing veins that went on and on and on, every passage dressed in skin. So many people, lives reduced to meat, woven together, plastered across the walls. They started to shift and squirm around me. A creature in agony, still alive. Its many tortured faces watched as I followed Sarah's screams into hell. I wasn't fast enough. Her voice was curling into long, winding sobs that rattled off the walls. Near the end, I think she was pleading with the thing that had her, but the words came out misshapen, impossible to understand. I was so close when her voice guttered out. She was just up ahead. Something was hunched there, in the shadows. A cloak of skin hung around its back. 100 centipede arms shot out either side, making the cloak flutter like leathery wings as they worked. The arms were thin and bony, crammed with too many elbows, bending into strange shapes in order to fit their length into the narrow space. Each one ended in a mockery of the human hand. Needle fingers tipped with blades and chisels and hooks. It held something in front of it, something quiet and still and beautiful. Sarah. A red slit ran down her front, from collarbone to groin. The thing had a flap of her peeled up, was moving 3 other arms underneath it in jerky, sawing motions. Then it pulled, and there was a sound, a wet, ripping nightmare sound, as it pried a sheet of skin away from her glistening muscles. I ran, left my wife there with that monster. What a coward. But there was nothing I could do. She was dead. She had to be dead. Her finger couldn't have twitched towards me, reaching out. Right? Nobody could have survived that. There was nothing I could do. So, I ran. Didn't care where I was going, didn't care if there was anywhere to go. My legs moved on their own. My foot caught something, and my flashlight smashed into the ground. I couldn't stop. Got back up and ran in the dark. Ran till my feet ached and my lungs burned. Not sure when the noise started. That steady, rhythmic pounding. So loud it made the air vibrate, made my teeth shake. Something gargantuan. Its heart beating behind the walls. Then it stopped. There was light ahead. Faint, but unmistakable. Tears slid hot down my cheeks as I moaned, ran towards that meager glow at the end of the tunnel, ran out into the woods, kept running, and didn't stop. Let's move on to the next story from handsome_house. I don't think our train is stopping anytime soon. I settled into my seat, adjusting my backpack and trying to get comfortable for the long ride ahead. I'd been looking forward to this trip for weeks, eager to get out of the city and spend some time in the countryside. The train rumbled to life beneath me, and we began to move, slowly at first, but gaining speed as we left the station behind. As we picked up pace, I felt a thrill of excitement. There's something about train travel that's always appealed to me. The rhythm of the tracks, the scenery rolling by outside the windows, the sense of being in motion without having to do anything myself. But as the hours ticked by, I began to feel a growing sense of unease. We'd been moving for what felt like an eternity, and yet we didn't seem to be getting anywhere. The scenery outside the windows was always the same, rolling hills, fields, and forests, with the occasional town or village flashing by in a blur. I checked my watch for what felt like the 100th time, wondering when we'd finally arrive at our destination. But according to the schedule, we still had hours to go. I sighed, feeling a pang of frustration. Why were we moving so slowly? As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the landscape, I decided to get up and stretch my legs. I walked down the aisle, nodding to the other passengers as I passed. Some of them looked up from their books or phones, while others barely acknowledged my presence. I made my way to the cafe car, hoping to find some answers. Maybe someone there could tell me what was going on, why we were taking so long to reach our destination. But when I arrived, I found the car empty, except for a lone attendant who was busy cleaning the counters. "Excuse me," I said, trying to sound friendly. "Can you tell me what's going on? Why are we taking so long to get to our destination?" The attendant looked up, a bland expression on his face. "I'm afraid there's been a delay," he said, his voice dripping with vagueness. "We'll get there when we get there." I felt a surge of frustration. "That's not good enough," I said, trying to keep my cool. "I need to know what's going on. Is there something wrong with the train?" The attendant shrugged. "I don't know anything about that. You'll just have to be patient." I scowled, feeling a growing sense of unease. Something wasn't right. I could feel it in my bones. As I made my way back to my seat, I noticed something strange. The other passengers seemed off. They were all staring out the windows, their faces blank and expressionless. It was as if they were in some kind of trance. I felt a shiver run down my spine. What was going on? Was everyone else in on some kind of secret that I wasn't privy to? I approached one of the passengers, a middle-aged woman who was sitting across from me. "Excuse me," I said, trying to sound friendly. "Do you know how long we've been on the train?" She looked up at me, a confused expression on her face. I don't know, she said. I don't even remember getting on the train. I felt a chill run down my spine. You don't remember getting on the train? I repeated. She shook her head. I just woke up and I was here. I looked around the train car, feeling a growing sense of unease. Were we all in some kind of collective amnesia? Did none of us know how long we'd been on the train? As the hours ticked by, I became more and more agitated. We were still moving, the train rumbling along the tracks, but we didn't seem to be getting anywhere. The scenery outside the windows was always the same, and the other passengers seemed to be in some kind of trance. I tried to stay calm, telling myself that there had to be a logical explanation for what was happening. But as the darkness deepened outside, and the train continued to move, without stopping, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. And then, just as I was starting to drift off to sleep, I heard a voice. It was low and raspy, and it seemed to be coming from all around me. "We're not going anywhere," it said. "We're just going to keep moving, forever and ever and ever." I sat up with a start, my heart racing. Who was speaking, and what did they mean? As I looked around the train car, I saw that the other passengers were still staring out the windows, their faces blank and expressionless. But I knew that I wasn't alone. There was something else on this train, something that didn't want us to ever reach our destination. The voice spoke again, its words echoing in my mind. "We're not going anywhere. We're just going to keep moving, forever and ever and ever." I felt a cold sweat break out on my forehead as I realized the true horror of our situation. We were trapped on this train, doomed to ride the rails forever, never reaching our destination, never escaping. I tried to scream, but my voice was hoarse and barely audible. I tried to move, but my body felt heavy and unresponsive. I was paralyzed with fear, unable to do anything but sit there and listen to the voice. As the hours ticked by, the voice continued to speak, its words dripping with malice and sadistic pleasure. It told us about the others who had ridden the train before us, the ones who had never escaped. It told us about the endless landscape that stretched out before us, the same scenery repeating itself over and over again. And it told us that we would never be free. I don't know how much longer I can hold on. The voice is still speaking, its words echoing in my mind, driving me slowly mad. I'm trapped on this train, doomed to ride the rails forever, never escaping. And I know that I'm not alone. There are others out there, others who are trapped just like me. We're all just pawns in some twisted game, forced to ride the train forever, never reaching our destination. I'm not sure how much longer I can take this. The voice is getting louder, its words more insistent. I feel like I'm losing my grip on reality, like I'm slipping into some kind of madness. And I know that I'll never be free. The train is still moving, the scenery outside the windows still rolling by. But I know that we're not going anywhere. We're just trapped on this train, forever doomed to ride the rails. I have to escape this shithole. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more thrilling horror stories like these. Also, share your thoughts on the story in the comment section below. If you want me to feature your own story on this channel, you are most welcome. Send your story to the email provided in the description below.